I joined 4 game jams in 1 month to get better and more importantly faster at making games. This is how I went from a blank project to this in just 48 hours. 48 hours? Who's writing this script? After completing my first game jam ever, I decided to do the Kenney Jam next, which only allows for 48 hours to make a whole game. Kenney is a big creator who specializes in making their own free assets for people to use. And the catch to this jam is that you can't make any of your own assets. You have to use Kenney's assets found on their site. Knowing that I didn't have to make any art and just focus on the development filled me with determination. But there was one huge issue. The jam runs from Friday to Sunday, and I have a wedding to go to that's gonna take a huge chunk out of Saturday. But you know, it shouldn't matter. I don't have to worry about that. Once the jam started, the theme was revealed to be connection. I first thought of the connection between two people, like maybe a dating sim, but that might have been too big of a task for the time frame. But I liked the connection between people idea. Then I thought, how about a game where you walk around a house and you just talk to people? And these people give clues through their dialogue of who else in the house they are related to. Then you can use these clues to match up their portraits on a big family tree. And at the end, you can go talk to the woman you're helping and she'll be like, oh yes, Sonny, very good. I remember now. Thank you so much. And that'll be the end of the game. I really liked that idea and it reminded me of Return of the Obra Dinn, where in that game, you have to walk around a scene and deduce what happened before and after with a logbook of details that can be written down. So the first order of business is setting up the scene and getting the player in the game, which is a piece of cake because I just copied the same movement code from my last game, which you can find in the description, and now we got a little cube sliding around. Then the trick is to get the other cube talking. First was to do some quick UI design and get a basic portrait card that will appear during dialogue. I used Kenney's UI art pack for this. Second was to show a dialogue bubble each time the player gets in range of the NPC's sphere collider so the player knows if they can be talked to or not. Then give them some pieces of dialogue for them to say. And how this works is using something called a coroutine. And a coroutine is basically telling Unity to hold on 1 second while they do this other thing before continuing with the main function. Next was to get the family tree UI in, and the idea is to have the members on the right hand side and drag and drop the portraits onto the left corresponding spot. But I was actually way too afraid to do dragging and dropping, being that I only have 30 hours left, and I've never done that before, so I just opted for click to select and click to drop, which came out just fine. And essentially, as far as mechanics go, the game was done. Now it's just to add all the content. The next bit was getting a level in because we just have a white plane and the empty black void of nothingness. So I really wanted to make an environment like Paper Mario with 2D characters and a 3D world. And the 3D world were just sprites wrapped onto 3D models, but I quickly found out that it'd take way too long translating Kenney's 2D sprite pack onto 3D models. So I scrapped that idea and just used Kenney's 3D furniture pack for the whole level. This way I didn't have to worry about retexturing anything, and I could just place all these pieces in the level, knowing they all have a cohesive art style to them. I then spent the majority of the time making the level. I spent so much time trying to align up every wall and piece of furniture I needed, because if they weren't perfectly aligned, Z-fighting would happen and the directional light source would bleed through the mesh. After the jam, I found out you could just turn on grid snapping so all the models will snap to a 3D grid automatically, but I didn't know that at the time. I then went and made all the characters and their locations of where they would be in the house. We have Betty, Horatio, Jimmy, Adam, Susie, Victor, Jackson, Gwen, Piper, Jacob, Max, Amy, Isaac, Billy, and Olive. And we have a living room, kitchen, upstairs hallway, bathroom, bedroom 1, bedroom 2, and an attic. After that, day 1 was complete and it was time to sleep. Day 2, I spent all morning getting the skeleton of the level done and realized I have literally 2 hours before I have to go to this wedding. So I decided to phone a friend to help make the dialogue portion, which was the main thing still missing. And my friend Mike answered the call. He makes Pokemon ROM hacks and has experience making dialogue for characters, so I figured he'd be a perfect choice in this time crunch. I linked his ROM hacks in the description if you'd like to check his work out. After leaving Mike with the task of coming up with dialogue, it was time to log off and go to the wedding. I had a lot of fun, dancing, eating food. They had a bacon station with everything bacon related, which was awesome. More dancing, and before I knew it, I was back home at 2:30 in the morning on Sunday, and realized if I go to sleep, I won't finish the jam in time. So I had to make a choice. Do I go to sleep and admit defeat right then and there? Or do I pull an all-nighter, lock in, and grind it out? See, the correct answer was to go to sleep, but I was never good at taking tests or making good life choices, so I decided to stay up and finish the game. So I got to work on finishing the environment, and that took about 3 hours, and by this time it was like 6 AM. And the next part was all about getting the characters and their portraits in. So I took Kenney's sprite pack and made copies of each character, one with just slicing off their head, another with their full body version to be in the level. There weren't enough characters to fill the 15 slots I needed, so I had to improvise and make extras by changing colors up. After that, I got all the characters positioned in place and realized I didn't have a main menu or any text explaining what the game is or how to play it. So I made a quick main menu with a short description, help Betty connect her family roots, then return to her when you're done. Also in the family book tree, I wrote a short summary of what to do at the bottom. Select members on the right and place them in the tree on the left, which seems explanatory enough. I also just got the dialogue in from Mike, who made it pretty sweet. Thank you, Mike, very cool. So there was only 30 minutes left and there was no way for the player to finish the game or even know that they won. Realizing I wasn't going to make it in time, I posted a community question in the jam page asking if I could update the game after the jam ended. They responded that all uploads would be locked once the timer hits 0. You cannot upload a new build until judging is over with. Which makes sense. What's the point of putting a deadline up if you could still upload after time runs out? So with 1 minute and 42 seconds left, I uploaded the game with no way to finish it. And I admitted a half defeat and half success. The game wasn't able to be completed, yes, but it got the point across of the gameplay and the overall intention, which I call a win. After judging, the scores were in and I received nothing. This jam was not like the previous ones where the community voted for their favorites. They actually had their own judges that played every single game and only posted their top 3 favorites and the winners of each category. So I didn't make the top 3 and I didn't win any of the categories, but I had another game under my belt, and after the jam ended, I updated the game to be bug-free, have a proper ending, and even added a bit of polish as well. I also made a browser version so you could play directly on my itch page, since it seems more people play your game if they don't have to download it. And this was a small enough game where it can be played in your browser without having any new bugs popping up. And that was my Kenney Jam 2024 experience. Making a game in a 48-hour time frame when I had a big portion of it cut from the wedding and the dumb human stuff like eating and sleeping was pretty challenging. But stay tuned, because if you think I made it any easier on myself in the future, you'd be wrong. So thanks for watching, subscribe if you like, and yeah, later.